Welcome to Being at Home with George during the time of COVID. It's great to be here and to be able to share this idea of the possibility of embracing, holding the pain, the frustration, the feeling of being overwhelmed, frustration, whatever it is, and at the same time generating the hope. And we do that every week and we talk about it. And tonight I'd like to talk about just my own experience of being in this time of a lot of change and a lot of turmoil, and the question that we all are probably asking ourselves. I know I'm asking myself this question on a daily basis: what can I do? And when I work with folks, whether they're athletes or just people performing in their domain, I always talk about make the next play, because things can get complicated. We can really maybe lose our orientation, our bearing. And the idea is always just make the next play. What's the next thing that we can do? And so when I think about making the next play, that's like a simple thing, like just breathing or just thinking about, okay, what am I doing? What is happening? Sort of thing. And so I always talk about we want to play smart and we want to play right. And the way to play smart is to play right, to do the right thing. And it usually goes back to basic fundamentals of being present and being positive and being cognizant of the fact that we can make choices. If we can create space between stimulus and response, in that space, we have the power and freedom to choose, and we can make wise choices in that space, especially when we realize that we can decide what we want to do or how we want to approach things. And so I thought it would be interesting to go back to my days in early recovery when I used to read the St. Francis prayer over and over, and it gave me some guidance. So I'm just going to talk about three of the phrases in that prayer where he talks about bringing light where there's darkness, bring faith where there's doubt, bring hope where there is despair. And so just thinking about the light where there's darkness, to me that's a metaphor for this idea of awareness, of being able to see what's going on and really know, both see and know, to be able to have like a mirror mind to see what's going on, even though I don't like it. This is what's going on, so I can really see it, and that's the first step in transforming it. And a lot of times I talk about the 4 A's, which is awareness, where it's just mirror mind, just seeing what's there. And then the second part of that is the acceptance. And that's where it really gets challenging, because in the acceptance, we have to move through the light, or we have to bring light on the subject, or bring the disinfectant of just light and being able to see clearly what's going on. And then by seeing that, then we can understand what we need to do, what I call compassionate action. So it's the seeing of it, the awareness, the accepting of it, embracing it, what we talk about, and at the same time generating hope so that there's an ability to do compassionate action. And then the fourth A would be to assess, what worked, what didn't work. And so this idea of bringing light where there's darkness, and this really, and a big part of that really has to do with this idea of understanding that bringing the light means we got to be with things as they are. So we have to know the truth. And by knowing the truth shall make us free. And even though we don't like what the truth is, we have to accept it. Okay, for me, it means that, okay, I work on this stuff, I study this stuff, and I felt myself feeling the darkness of all of the things going on, and just really acknowledging that and say, okay, that's what's happening. And at the same time, it's the truth. And by knowing the truth, I can deal with it. And so how I'm dealing with it, how I think about it is, now, where does the darkness come from? It comes from being cynical. This idea of having a lot of information, seeing things, and there being so much information or insight that there's not the balance of faith or trust or generating a hope. That's why I talk about generating a hope. So, and I just said to myself, well, I'm feeling this darkness. I'm feeling a doubt about things. And then when I remember that, okay, so I talk about this in my book, The Mindful Athlete. It's like, how do we balance these superpowers? And two of the superpowers are insight, which could be information, intellect, direct experience or intuition and hope or trust that we live in a lawful universe, and there's the lawfulness from it. And so when I can understand that I need to just bring more faith, reflect more on, past experiences, that this is a lawful universe, and if I align myself with the way things are going to work out. But it's always about doing good, trying to be helpful, avoiding being unhelpful, and just purifying my mind, or being able to see things clearly and to come from my heart space to be loving. How can I bring light to darkness? How can I bring faith to doubt? And it's just by embracing the doubt and saying there's something I can do. I have this masterpiece inside of me. I've been wired for success. And it's how I use my consciousness, is how I relate to things. That's the most important thing. Not the thing, but my interaction, my relationship to it, my ability to create space between stimulus and response, and to choose my response in alignment with my values, in alignment with what I say I want to do. So I want to make the next play. I want to make the smart play. I want to do the right thing or play the right way. And that is just understanding that I can bring light to darkness, which is just the absence of light, and that my faith helps me is when I can generate hope. And that's the next thing. How can I bring hope where there is despair? And once again, it's always about how do I generate hope? So I had chronic pain. I still have chronic pain, but I was able to work with that. That got me into the practice of being able to do introspection, understanding the mind and body are connected. And that by understanding that I have a masterpiece and that I was able to overcome challenges, difficulties in the past, and that they ended up being transformed from roadblocks to stepping stones. And so if I have past successes, I was able to overcome my substance abuse, chronic pain, and I'm continuing to evolve and grow and understand things, then that's what I have to focus on. What I can do, what I want, and how to be helpful. What can I do to make things better? What can I do to help myself feel more hopeful, have more faith? What can I do to be able to bring light into the situation, to actually bring in this idea of observing, to both see and know, so that I can make wise choices? And so to me, this is what I can do. This is what we can do, is to understand that we have this masterpiece. We've been wired for success. We live in a universe that's friendly and has a lawfulness to it. So we align to the lawfulness. So one of the things about the lawfulness I like to talk about all the time is this idea of, if I want to learn something, I teach it. And if I want to keep something, I have to give it away. So this idea of generosity, integrity, and this idea of being able to forgive and to give up things. I don't see it as sacrifice. I see it as generosity, just letting go of things, giving up things. But how can I help myself and help others? By sharing my experience, strength, and hope. But what I can do when I feel like I can't do anything, I can bring light to where there's darkness, forget myself to find myself by being of service, reaching out to someone else, talking about, well, this is how I deal with my darkness. I bring light to it. This is how I deal with my doubt. I enhance, or I generate more hope, more trust, more faith. And the idea of faith is, faith without works is dead. So I have the faith, but the faith helps me to do the work, which transforms faith into conviction. And so it's all of these things. So we think about just bringing light where there is darkness, bringing faith where there is doubt, and bringing hope where there's despair, not only for ourselves, but with others. So we talk about, how do we do this? What can we do to help each other? How can we have conversations that allow us to understand there's more that brings us together than divides us? And we got to start thinking about not only ourselves, but the greater good, the greater community. And how do we get to a point where we can support each other, and when we can just do these little things in our interactions in daily life with ourselves and with others, that just bring light, bring faith, bring hope. And as I like to say, to see and know, to embrace what's happening And then in that embrace, they generate the hope. This is an opportunity for me to have more faith, to bring more light, to bring more hope to bear on the situation.